Hello everyone, today we are talking about bribery and your Second Amendment rights. We are talking about how a police officer was accepting bribes in exchange for CCW and carry and handgun permits in the state of Maryland. I know, who would have thought that making a right something that is may issue would lead to people being bribed or having different tiers of citizens where some people can get the rights and some people can't. My question before we get going, though, is something a right if it is able to be taken from you? And is something a right if you are in a situation where you can bribe someone to attain it? Now, before we do get going in the video, I do want to say thank you to today's sponsor of the video, Aventon Bikes. They make incredible e-bikes. Some of these things go damn near 30 miles an hour. I'm very happy to have their support. There will be a link down in the description. Check them out. I'm very happy to have their support in this channel as I am now in the market for night vision goggles. And if those of you that know, you know that those are expensive. I'm so happy to have their support. Might end up picking up one of these bikes and doing some nighttime operations, to the mall and that kind of thing, because I'm a tactical mall ninja. Thank you, Aventon Bikes, for supporting this channel. Now, I initially became aware of this because I follow, and apparently they follow me back, Maryland Shall Issue on Twitter. Also, Rob Romano, two-way updates, great sources of information, especially nationwide. They do a lot of talk about a lot of stuff from California. He's just very aware, shares a lot of things, and it's that which led me to here. This is the Department of Justice from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Maryland. Baltimore County police officer facing federal indictment for allegedly seeking and accepting bribes in exchange for falsely certifying the completion of firearms training required to obtain a handgun. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. When I first read this, what I thought was happening, and it seems that is not the case, what I first thought was happening, and I'm saying this so that you don't get confused as well, I thought that a cop was saying, hey, if you pay me $150, we won't have to do all that bullshit. We won't have to make you do any of the classes. You won't have to pay for all the classes, all the training that you got to do, and we'll just hand out CCWs. I thought that's what was going on, and I was like, you know what? I ain't even mad. And then what it turned out to be was that this guy was accepting bribes in addition to people having to pay and go through the process. But he was accepting bribes, and then some of them weren't even having to do the training. So this was just a situation where a cop saw the ability to gain from his power over people in order for people to exercise their rights. Now, again, my question, is it a right if you have to pay for it? Now, Johnson joined the police department in 2008, he became a narcotics detective in 2014, and then he obtained a qualified handgun instructor certificate from the Maryland State Police in 2019. Now, in order for any person in Maryland to either first just own, rent, or obtain a handgun, you have to get what's called a handgun qualification license. Now, in order to get that, the applicant must be at least 21 years old and complete 4 hours of instruction by a qualified handgun instructor, including classroom training, a firearm orientation, and a live fire exercise in which the applicant safely shoots the weapon. Similarly, to get a CCW, you would have to go through 16 hours of training at the Maryland State Police Firearms Training Course to get your initial CCW application, and a minimum of 8 hours for a renewal. Part of the training course for the CCW is a firearms qualification exercise in which the applicant must shoot a specific course scoring at least 70% accuracy to demonstrate their proficiency and use of the firearm. Here's a few interesting things. Now, I've taken a few CCW courses. When I took my first one, I would generally consider myself a good shooter. Now, I am not going to win any major competitions. I am not going to step onto a war zone and start pipe hitting like some of the Navy SEALs. It's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But I would consider myself an above average shooter. I would consider myself a C-class USPSA shooter as far as skill. That being said, I walked into these courses and I looked like a god amongst mere mortals compared to the people that are taking these courses. There is no amount of training that you can do in 4 hours that would make you anything other than not unsafe to be around with a gun. So, for example, I'm going to do something for you real quick. What I just did right here, unloading a handgun, would be something that would be considered difficult for many of the people that are taking intro courses to get a CCW or to get one of these HQLs. Now, same goes for loading it. The goal of these courses is to basically make sure that you can generally put targets in a forward direction without hurting yourself, and that you understand the basic concepts of safety with a firearm. So when we get into it and we start discussing the fact that some of these people paid their way out of having to go through that training, I think the left is going to freak out about this and be like, oh my God, these people are just now carrying. It's like the Wild West. There's no training. No amount of training that you do over a weekend or over 4 hours is going to make you a truly good shooter. All that these courses do is create a system where people are potentially unable to afford or be able to take the time to meet the requirements, meaning that then they have to either bribe someone like they do here, or they would just have to break the law. According to the 6-court indictment from May through September, Johnson solicited and accepted bribes and kickbacks paid through the services like Venmo, Cash App, and Zelle from applicants seeking the HQLs and CCWs in exchange for Johnson falsely certifying to the Maryland State Police that they had completed the retraining required by law. As detailed in the indictment, Johnson communicated with applicants and arranged the payments using a messaging app. Johnson allegedly charged approximately $100 for the HQL certification and between $150 and $200 for the CCW certification. In conversations with the applicants, Johnson allegedly made clear that once they paid the money, Johnson would send them the documentation and they did not need to attend the required classes. The indictment alleges that after receiving payment from the applicants, Johnson sent the applicants a certified qualification score sheet, falsely certifying that the applicant completed the required training. The indictment alleges that the applicants then submitted those falsified forms as part of their application, and based on the falsified documentation provided by Johnson and submitted by the applicants received the HQL or CCW from MSP, Maryland State Police. The indictment alleges that Johnson received 6 payments from 5 individuals seeking to obtain an HQL, a CCW, or both an HQL and CCW. It seems as if he did give at least 100 applicants their handgun qualification license and at least 45 for wear and carry permits, but it seems like only 6 from 5 individuals seeking to get those actually just bribed him. If convicted, he faces a sentence of 20 years in federal prison for each of the 6 counts. Jesus Christ, 20 years for each of the 6 counts? Damn. Actual sentences for federal crime are typically less than the maximum penalties, and a federal district court will determine any sentence after taking into account the sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. Okay, so here's the situation as it stands. This guy was a cop 2008. In 2014, he became a narcotics investigator. In 2019, he got the ability to start issuing CCW and handgun licenses in the state of Maryland. And then at some point, he, to 5 or 6 people, accepts bribes and basically just says to people, if you pay, you will not have to actually do it. Now, who would have thought that a system where you put more and more barriers to entry to exercise a fundamental right would lead to people with the power to determine who gets to exercise those rights, would lead to a situation where you can be bribed? I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. I'm very curious to see how this goes. I appreciate everyone that supports this channel. Thank you to all the likes, comments, subscribes. I really appreciate those that interact. Subscribing doesn't really seem to work because YouTube's just going to unsubscribe people, but those of you that like and comment, I really do appreciate that. Thank you. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.